The bass from the karaoke stage vibrated through the bar's back hallway, making the fluorescent light above the bathroom flicker. I'd stepped away from Marcus's engagement party for exactly 90 seconds to check a text from my site supervisor about tomorrow's dig schedule, when a hand locked around my wrist and yanked me sideways. I barely registered the sequined fabric, dark, shimmering, before I was inside the single-stall bathroom, door slamming shut, lock clicking. A woman stood with her back pressed against the wood, one finger to her red lips, eyes locked on mine. Off-shoulder dress, the kind you see at gallery openings, not dive karaoke bars. Dark hair falling past her shoulders. Her other hand gripped the edge of her small clutch purse, knuckles bloodless white. Her eyes darted to the gap beneath the door every 3 seconds, then back to my face. "Shh," she whispered, barely audible over the muffled music. "We can't get caught." My brain caught up half a second later. Caught doing what? I wasn't doing anything. I opened my mouth to ask what the hell was happening, but she shook her head sharply, pressing that finger harder against her own lips. Then I heard it. Heavy footsteps in the hallway outside, slowing near the door. A man's voice, too low to make out words, but the tone was wrong. Searching, insistent. Her chest rose and fell in short, controlled breaths, the kind you take when you're forcing yourself not to run. She wasn't looking at me anymore. Her gaze was fixed on that thin gap beneath the door, watching for shadows. The footsteps paused. I could hear someone breathing on the other side of the wood. My hand moved without permission, reaching for the lock to make sure it was fully engaged. It was. 15 seconds passed like 15 minutes. Then the footsteps moved away, fading back toward the main bar area. The woman sagged slightly, her shoulders dropping 2 inches. She closed her eyes for one long blink, then opened them and finally released her death grip on the purse. "I'm sorry," she said, voice steadier now but still quiet. "I just needed... He wouldn't stop following me. I couldn't get to the exit without him seeing." I took a breath, trying to reset my brain. Who wouldn't stop? She glanced up at me then, and I got my first real look at her face. Mid-30s, maybe. Sharp cheekbones, brown eyes with faint shadows underneath. Her jaw muscle kept flexing, then releasing, then flexing again. "A man from the party," she said. "He's been persistent. I thought coming here tonight would be safe because it's public, but he showed up 20 minutes after I did. I don't think that's a coincidence." Her hand was still on the lock, fingers curled tight. I looked down at my wrist where she'd grabbed me. Her grip had been strong, purposeful. Not the grab of someone playing games, the grab of someone who needed an exit and took it. "You know him?" I asked. "He bought a painting from my gallery 2 months ago," she said. "Then he started showing up during business hours, asking when I'd be there. Then after hours. Then he started waiting outside." She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, scrolled to a folder labeled Incident Log, flipped the screen toward me. 23 entries. Dates, times, locations. I stopped answering his calls, but he keeps leaving voicemails. The fluorescent light buzzed. I could still hear the karaoke, someone butchering Journey. My phone vibrated in my pocket, probably Marcus wondering where I'd disappeared to, but I didn't move to check it. "Have you called the police?" I asked. She let out a short breath through her nose, not quite a laugh. "And tell them what? That a man bought art from me and now he talks to me too much? They told me to document it." She held up the phone again. "I've documented 23 incidents in 6 weeks. They said to come back if he threatens me directly." My fingers curled into fists inside my pockets. I forced them open. 23 incidents. 6 weeks. That wasn't casual interest. That was a pattern. I'd seen patterns like this before, different context, same warning signs. In the field, when looters started showing up at a site with increasing frequency, you didn't wait for them to start digging. You documented, you secured the perimeter. You got authorities involved before the damage was done. "Is he still out there?" I asked. She leaned closer to the door, tilting her head. After a moment, she nodded. "I can hear him talking to the bartender, asking if anyone's seen me." I made a decision. It wasn't a smart decision, but I made it anyway. "Stay here. I'll check if the hallway's clear, then walk you out the side exit by the kitchen. There's an alley that leads to the street." She stared at me. "You don't have to—" "I know," I said. "But you grabbed me, so now I'm involved, and I don't leave sites half-excavated." That was a terrible analogy, but it was out of my mouth before I could stop it. She blinked, and for half a second, something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by wariness. "I don't know you," she said. "Keelian Ortiz," I said. "I'm here for my friend's engagement party. I work in archaeology, field work, excavation. I spend most of my time in dirt, not nightlife. I have zero interest in whatever this guy's doing, but I do know how to document evidence and navigate hostile terrain. And right now, that hallway is hostile terrain." She studied my face for a long moment, then released the lock. "Diana Hernandez, gallery curator. And thank you." I unlocked the door slowly, easing it open an inch. The hallway was empty. I could hear the stalker's voice at the bar, louder now, agitated, asking if the staff had seen a woman in a dark dress. The bartender's response was clipped, professional. "No, sir, lots of people here tonight." I stepped out first, scanning both directions. "Clear." I gestured for Diana to follow, and we moved quickly toward the kitchen entrance at the far end of the hall. A server pushed through the swinging door with a tray of drinks, gave us a curious glance, but kept walking. We slipped through into the chaos of the kitchen. Heat, noise, the smell of fryer oil and grilled meat. A cook glanced up from the flat top. "You lost?" "Shortcut," I said, and kept moving toward the back exit. Diana stayed close, her heels clicking softly against the tile. I pushed open the metal door, and we stepped into the alley. Cold March air hit my face, sharp and clean after the bar's dense atmosphere. Diana looked both ways down the alley, then pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over the screen, not moving. "Where are you parked?" I asked. "I walked. I live 6 blocks from here." She paused, still staring at her phone. "He knows where I live." I watched her face. The muscle in her jaw was working again. Flex, release, flex. Her breathing had slowed, but her shoulders were still up near her ears. "Then don't go home yet," I said. "Stay in public until he leaves the area." She looked at me, doing the math, weighing whether I was another risk or the lesser of two evils. I kept my hands visible, my posture open, non-threatening. After a moment, she lowered her phone slightly. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. I shrugged. "Because you asked. And because I've seen what happens when people ignore patterns. In fieldwork, if you miss one marker, you lose the whole site. This guy's a pattern. You're right to be scared." She didn't argue with that. Instead, she leaned against the brick wall, pressing one hand to her forehead. The other hand still gripped her phone like it might fly away. "I'm sorry I dragged you into this," she said. "I just panicked when I saw him coming down the hallway. You were the closest person who didn't look like you'd ask questions first." "I'm asking questions now," I said. "I noticed." A faint, strained smile. "Are you going to keep asking?" "Probably." Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Every muscle in her face went still, the kind of stillness that comes right before fight or flight kicks in. She turned the phone toward me. A text from an unknown number. "I saw you leave. I just want to talk. Why are you avoiding me?" The timestamp was 40 seconds ago. I looked from the phone to Diana's face. "That's him?" She nodded once, sharp. "Don't answer," I said. "Screenshot it. Note the time. Add it to your documentation." She did, hands shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. When she finished, she looked up at me. "He's going to keep doing this, isn't he? Even if I get a restraining order? Even if I move?" I didn't lie to her. "Maybe. But you make it harder. You build walls. You document everything. You get the law on your side, and you don't give him openings." I paused. "And you don't go home alone tonight. Do you have somewhere safe? Family? Friends?" "My brother's in Arizona," she said. "Most of my friends are work acquaintances, and I don't want to drag them into this." The smart move would have been to suggest a hotel. The smart move would have been to step back, wish her luck, and return to Marcus's party. But I'd already made several non-smart moves in the last 10 minutes, so I kept the streak alive. "I have a couch," I said. "It's in a second-floor apartment with good locks and a landlord who's a retired cop. You can stay there tonight if you need a safe place to regroup." Diana stared at me. "You're offering me your couch? You met me 5 minutes ago in a bathroom." 7 minutes, I corrected. "And yeah, I am." She opened her mouth, closed it, then laughed, a short, disbelieving sound that came out more like a cough. "You're either the kindest person I've ever met or the dumbest." "Probably both," I admitted. She looked at her phone again, at the text still glowing on the screen. Then she looked at the alley's opening, where the street noise filtered in. Cars, voices, the distant wail of a siren. She took a breath that made her shoulders rise and fall. "Okay," she said. "Just for tonight. And I'm keeping my phone on me. And if you try anything—" "I won't," I said. "But you should keep your phone on you anyway. And tomorrow we're going to the police station together. You're going to file another report, and I'm going to be your witness for tonight's incident. We're going to start building a case they can't ignore." Something shifted in her posture. Her spine straightened half an inch. Her grip on the phone loosened fractionally. Not trust, not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. She nodded once, sharp and decisive. "All right, Kylie and Ortiz, archaeologist," she said. "Let's go." We walked out of the alley together, and I didn't look back at the bar. I texted Marcus a quick apology. Emergency, had to leave, explain tomorrow, and led Diana toward my apartment 6 blocks north. She walked with purpose, but her head kept turning, checking behind us every half block. I matched her pace, keeping my phone in my hand, ready. When we reached my building, I unlocked the main entrance and held the door. She hesitated at the threshold, looking up at the 3-story walk-up with its peeling paint and flickering porch light. "This is it," I said. "Second floor, Unit 4B. Door has a deadbolt and a chain. Windows have locks. My landlord's in Unit 1A if you need backup." Diana stepped inside. "I've stayed in worse places." I didn't ask where. We climbed the stairs in silence, her heels echoing in the narrow stairwell. At my door, I unlocked it and gestured her in first. She walked past me into the small living room, her gaze moving in quick sweeps. Exits first, then windows, then the rest. Futon couch against one wall. Coffee table buried under field notes and site maps. Bookshelves crammed with archaeology texts and storage boxes labeled by dig season. It wasn't much, but it was clean. "Bathroom's there," I said, pointing. "Kitchen's through that door. Couch folds out if you want a real mattress, but I haven't tested it in a year, so it might be lumpy. I'll grab you some blankets." She set her small purse down on the coffee table, still scanning the room. Her fingers drummed once against her thigh, then stopped. You live alone? Yeah. Most of the year I'm on site anyway, so this is just a place to store my stuff and crash between projects. Where's your next project? She asked. Peru, I said. Supposed to fly out in 6 weeks. Pre-Columbian settlement survey. She looked at me then, and I saw the calculation in her eyes. 6 weeks. Not long enough for her to become dependent, not short enough to be useless. I didn't know if that made her more or less comfortable, but she didn't ask me to leave. I found blankets in the hallway closet and a spare pillow that didn't smell like dirt. When I returned to the living room, Diana was standing by the window, looking down at the street below. Her hand rested on the window frame, fingers tapping a rhythm. Tap, tap, pause, tap. He's not down there, she said quietly. I checked. I set the blankets on the couch. Good, but we'll check again in the morning. She turned from the window. Why are you doing this? You already asked me that. And you gave me a non-answer, she said. I'm asking again. I sat down on the arm of the couch, trying to find words that didn't sound either heroic or pathetic. Because I know what it's like to be in a situation where the rules don't protect you. In archaeology, we have protocols for everything. Permits, land rights, artifact handling. But sometimes you're in the field and someone with more power decides the rules don't apply to them. They take what they want. And if you don't have documentation, if you don't have witnesses, you lose. I paused. I don't like watching people lose to bullies. Diana studied my face for a long moment. Her hand stopped tapping. Then she nodded slowly. Okay. That's a real answer. I stood up. I'm going to sleep in my room. Doors closed, door stays closed. You need anything? Knock. Otherwise, I'll see you in the morning, and we'll figure out next steps. Next steps, she repeated, like she was testing the phrase. Yeah, I said. Tomorrow morning. Police station. You bring your documentation, I'll bring my witness statement. We make them listen. She sank down onto the couch. Her hands came together in her lap, fingers lacing tight. I don't even know if I believe that's possible. I grabbed my backpack from the floor, pulled out my field notebook, worn leather cover, pages filled with grid maps and artifact logs. I flipped to a blank page, wrote down 3 things. 1. Police report. Witness present. 2. Incident timeline, organized by date/location. 3. Next steps. Protective order filing. I tore out the page and set it on the coffee table in front of her. This is how we start. Document, organize, execute. Same way I'd approach a site survey. 1 step at a time. She picked up the paper, read it. Her fingers stopped shaking. You really do think like an archaeologist. It's the only way I know how to think. A faint smile touched her lips. You're very weird, you know that. I've been told. I left her in the living room and retreated to my bedroom, closing the door softly behind me. I heard her moving around for a few minutes. Water running in the bathroom, the creak of the couch springs as she settled in. Then silence. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and replayed the moment she'd grabbed my wrist. The desperate strength in that grip. The way she'd scanned the hallway afterward, checking exits, calculating risks. That wasn't paranoia. That was survival instinct honed by 6 weeks of being hunted. My phone buzzed. Marcus, where the hell are you? You okay? I typed back. Long story. I'm fine. Sorry I bailed. We'll explain in person. Marcus, you better. Sarah's asking if you got abducted. I almost laughed. Not abducted. Just willingly walked into someone else's nightmare because I couldn't walk away, which might have been stupider than getting abducted. I set my phone on the nightstand and closed my eyes. Tomorrow, we'd start the process. Police report, documentation, safety plan. I'd done harder things. I'd mapped burial sites in monsoon season. I'd negotiated with government officials who didn't speak my language. I could handle one stalker and a legal system that moved at glacial speed. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the city hummed its usual nighttime rhythm. Distant traffic, a dog barking, someone's TV through thin walls. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. I fell asleep thinking about patterns and evidence and the way Diana's fingers had drummed against the window frame. Tap, tap, pause, tap, like she was counting down to something. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. I sat up, disoriented for half a second, then remembered. Diana. Couch. Stalker. Right. I pulled on jeans and a clean shirt and walked into the kitchen. Diana stood by my ancient coffee maker, watching it drip. She'd changed out of the dress into what looked like a spare shirt from her purse and her same jeans from last night. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup. She looked younger without it, but the shadows under her eyes were more pronounced. "I hope you don't mind," she said, gesturing at the coffee. "I found the grounds in the freezer." "You're doing me a favor," I said. "I usually forget to make it." She poured 2 cups, handed me one. Black, no sugar. I took it, watching her hands. Steady now. The tremor from last night was gone. We stood in the small kitchen in silence for a moment, the morning light filtering through the window above the sink. Diana sipped her coffee, staring at something past my shoulder. Then she set the cup down with a soft clink. "Did you mean what you said last night?" she asked. "About going to the police station?" "Yeah," I said. "We can go this morning if you're ready." She picked up the cup again, wrapped both hands around it like she was trying to absorb the heat. "I'm not sure what good it'll do. I've already filed 2 reports. They took notes, told me to keep documenting. Nothing changed." I set down my own cup and moved to the table where I'd left my backpack last night. I pulled out my laptop, opened it, started typing. "What format are your incident logs in?" "What?" "Your documentation," I said. "The 23 incidents. Are they just in your phone notes or do you have them in a spreadsheet? Timeline? Map?" "Just chronological notes in my phone." I nodded, still typing. "Okay, we're going to change that. In archaeology, when we present findings to a grant committee or government agency, we don't just show up with raw data. We organize it into formats they can't ignore. Cross-reference timelines, geographic clustering, pattern analysis." I turned the laptop toward her. "We're going to do the same thing with your evidence." Diana came over to the table, looked at the screen. I'd opened a blank spreadsheet template. "You want to make a timeline?" "Not just a timeline," I said. "A multi-axis analysis. Date and time in one column, location in another. Type of contact, physical presence, phone call, text, email. Duration, witnesses present. Police report filed, yes or no. This way, when we walk into that station, we're not asking them to believe you. We're showing them an undeniable pattern." She sat down slowly in the chair next to me, picked up her phone, opened the incident log, started reading the first entry aloud. "February 10th, 3 p.m. He came to the gallery, asked when I'd be working next week, stayed for 40 minutes, no other customers present." I typed it into the spreadsheet. Date, time, location, contact type, duration, witnesses. "Next one?" She read through all 23. It took us 40 minutes. By the time we finished, the spreadsheet had clear patterns. Escalation in frequency from once a week to almost daily. Escalation in intrusiveness from public spaces to her residence. Escalation in contact methods from in-person to digital stalking. I added one more column. Threat level assessment. Green for low-risk public contact, yellow for boundary violations, red for direct threats or safety concerns. Then I color-coded the entire sheet. Diana stared at the screen. The pattern was undeniable. A clear progression from green to yellow to red, concentrated in the last 2 weeks. "Oh my God," she said quietly. "It looks worse when you see it like this." "That's the point," I said. "Visual evidence is harder to dismiss than verbal testimony. This shows escalation. This shows you're not exaggerating or overreacting. This shows you're in danger." She looked at me. "How do you know how to do this?" "Because this is what I do," I said. "I take fragmentary evidence and turn it into coherent narratives that funding agencies take seriously, different context, same methodology." I saved the file, labeled it Diana Hernandez, Incident Documentation, Organized. "Can you forward me all the screenshots of texts and voicemails? I'll create a separate folder, organize them by date, cross-reference with the timeline." She was already pulling up her phone, fingers moving fast. "Sending them now." My phone buzzed repeatedly as the files came through. 23 screenshots, 14 voicemail transcripts. I downloaded them all, created a folder structure. Primary timeline, text evidence, voice evidence, witness statements. Organized everything by date and time. Added a summary document that pulled key quotes showing escalation in language, from "Can we talk?" in week 1 to "Why are you avoiding me? I know you're home" in week 6. When I finished, I had a complete evidence packet that looked like it had been prepared by a legal team, not a gallery curator and an archaeologist sitting in a kitchen at 8 a.m. Diana was watching me work, her coffee forgotten on the table. "You're really good at this." "I'm good at turning chaos into order," I said. "It's literally my job description." I printed everything: timeline, evidence logs, summary analysis, 17 pages total. I put them in a folder with tabs: Overview, Timeline, Digital Evidence, Next Steps. Handed it to Diana. "This is what we're bringing to the police," I said. "Not a request, a case file." She opened the folder, flipped through the pages. Her fingers stopped shaking entirely. She looked up at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, I saw something that looked like hope. "Okay," she said. "Let's go." We finished our coffee in silence, then gathered our things. I grabbed my backpack, always packed with field notebook, camera, pens, because you never knew when you'd need to document something. We walked to the police station 3 blocks away, the morning air still cold and sharp. Inside, the station smelled like bad coffee and floor cleaner. A desk sergeant looked up as we approached, bored expression already in place. "Can I help you?" "I need to file a report about ongoing harassment," Diana said. Her voice was steady now, no tremor. "This is my witness, and this is my evidence packet." She slid the folder across the desk. The sergeant opened it, started reading. His eyebrows went up slightly when he saw the timeline. He flipped to the digital evidence section, scanned the escalation analysis. "Who organized this?" he asked. "I did," Diana said. "With assistance." The sergeant looked at me. "You a lawyer?" "Archaeologist," I said. "But I know how to document patterns and present evidence." He nodded slowly, still reading. When he got to the summary page, the one that showed clear escalation from low-risk contact to high-risk stalking behavior, he closed the folder and looked at Diana with a different expression. Not bored anymore. Attentive. "This is very thorough," he said. "I'm going to pass this directly to our domestic violence unit. Someone will call you today, not in 48 hours. This level of documentation changes the priority level. Diana's shoulders dropped an inch. Thank you. The sergeant made copies of everything, handed the originals back to Diana. Keep these, and keep documenting. If he makes contact again, call 911 immediately. With this evidence, we can get you emergency protective measures if needed. We left the station together. Outside, Diana stopped on the sidewalk and looked at the folder in her hands. He took us seriously, she said. Because you gave him something he couldn't ignore, I said. You didn't just tell him you were scared. You showed him a prosecutable pattern. She looked at me. I couldn't have done this without you. You had all the data, I said. I just helped you organize it. Still, she took a breath. Can I buy you breakfast as a thank you? I should have said no. I should have wished her luck and gone back to my apartment to prep for Peru. But I didn't. Sure, I said. We walked to a diner 2 blocks over, slid into a booth by the window. Diana ordered eggs and toast. I ordered pancakes and more coffee. The place was half empty, just a few early morning regulars reading newspapers and ignoring everyone else. Diana tore her toast into small, precise pieces. Same size, same shape. A ritual. She didn't eat any of it, just kept tearing. So, she said, you're leaving for Peru in 6 weeks. That's the plan, I said. What happens if this case drags on longer than that? I hadn't thought about it. Or maybe I had and just didn't want to say it out loud. Then I figure it out. Delay the trip, or help you set up support before I leave. This doesn't end just because I get on a plane. She looked at the neat pile of torn toast in front of her. You barely know me. True, I said. But I know enough, and I've made worse commitments based on less information. Like what? Like signing up for a 4-month dig in Mongolia based on a 2-paragraph email, I said. Turned out the site was 3 miles from the nearest road, and the team leader didn't believe in refrigeration. She laughed, a real laugh this time, not bitter or strained. It changed her whole face. The shadows under her eyes seemed lighter. That sounds terrible. It was, I said. But we found an intact burial site from the Bronze Age, so it was worth it. Everything's worth it if you find something? Pretty much. Our food arrived. We ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. I watched her organize her plate, eggs on one side, toast on the other, never letting them touch. She caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. What? You like things organized, I said. Occupational hazard, she said. You can't run a gallery if you can't keep track of inventory, provenance, sales records, shipping logistics. Sounds like archaeology, I said. Different artifacts, same obsession with documentation. She smiled faintly. Maybe that's why your system worked. We think the same way. We finished breakfast, split the check despite her protests, and walked back out into the morning. The sun was higher now, warming the streets. People heading to work, cars filling the roads, normal life continuing around us. Diana pulled out her phone to call a ride home. I waited with her on the corner, scanning the street out of habit. No sign of the stalker, no suspicious cars, just the usual city chaos. Her ride pulled up. She opened the door, then paused. I'm going to the gallery today, she said. I can't hide forever, but I'll keep my phone on me, and I'll text you if anything happens. Lock the doors, I said. All of them. And if he shows up, don't engage. Document and call 911. She nodded. I will. Thank you, Keelian, for everything. We're not done yet, I said. I know. She slid into the car and closed the door. I watched it pull away, then headed back to my apartment. Inside, I looked at the couch where she'd slept. The blankets were folded in perfect squares, pillow centered on top. She'd washed her coffee cup and left it in the drying rack. Small gestures, but they felt significant. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. I had work to do. Peru prep, grant applications, site reports. But first, I pulled up my calendar and blocked out the next 8 weeks. Whatever happened with Diana's case, I was seeing it through. Peru could wait. Some excavations were more important than others. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. Made it home. Doors locked. Police called already. Meeting with Detective Santos tomorrow, 2 p.m. Can you come? I typed back. I'll be there. Then I got to work. Because the next phase was going to require planning, patience, and a lot of very boring paperwork. But I'd done boring before, and this time it mattered. Over the next 2 weeks, Diana and I fell into a rhythm. She'd text me updates, new incidents, police callbacks, court filing confirmations. I'd meet her at the station for interviews, sit with her during victim services appointments, help her add new evidence to the timeline we'd built. The stalker, Brandon Cole, didn't stop. He showed up at her gallery 3 more times, left flowers on her car, sent emails to her work address. Each time, Diana documented it. Each time, we added it to the case file. The police finally assigned a detective, a middle-aged woman named Santos, who reviewed our evidence packet in the first 5 minutes of the meeting and immediately pulled out her incident report forms. "This is excellent work," Santos said, tapping the timeline. "Most victims don't have anything close to this level of documentation. It's going to make my job a lot easier." Diana sat beside me in the detective's office. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers still. "What happens now?" Santos flipped through the pages. "We build on what you've started. I'll add my investigation notes, interview witnesses, pull any security footage from your gallery and residence. Then we file for an emergency protective order." She looked at Diana directly. "He's escalating. Gifts, contact attempts, showing up at multiple locations. We need to intervene before it gets worse." "How much worse?" Diana asked. Santos didn't sugarcoat it. "Worst case? Violence. Best case? He moves on to someone else. But with this documentation, we can stop him before either happens." She closed the folder. "I'm recommending we fast-track the protective order hearing. Can you be ready in 2 weeks?" Diana nodded. "Yes." Santos looked at me. "You'll testify? As a witness to the March 15th incident?" "Yes," I said. "Good." Santos stood, shook both our hands. "I'll call you with the court date. In the meantime, Diana, vary your routine. Don't go anywhere alone if you can help it. And if he approaches you, do not engage. Document and call 911 immediately." We left the station together. Outside, Diana walked to her car in the parking lot, then stopped with her hand on the door handle. She turned to face me. 2 weeks, she said. "Yeah," I said. 2 weeks until we end this." She looked down at her keys, then back at me. "Killian, would you want to... I mean, if you're not busy tonight, I'm making dinner at my place. Nothing fancy, just... I'd like the company." I should have said no. I should have kept this professional, kept boundaries clear. But I didn't. "What time?" I asked. 7? "I'll be there." That night, I showed up at her apartment at 7 sharp with a bottle of wine and 0 expectations. Diana answered the door in jeans and a sweater. Barefoot, hair down. The apartment smelled like garlic and roasting vegetables. Music played softly from a speaker in the corner, something jazzy and warm. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. I set the wine on the counter. Diana opened it with practiced ease, poured 2 glasses. Her movements were precise, economical, the same way she organized her toast at breakfast. Everything had its place. "So," she said, handing me a glass, "did you call Peru?" "Not yet," I said, "waiting to see how the next 2 weeks play out first." She leaned against the counter, swirling her wine. "You don't have to put your life on hold for this. For me." "I know," I said, "but I want to see it through. Make sure the protective order sticks. Make sure you're safe before I leave." Diana studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay. Thank you." We moved to the couch with our wine. She'd set out a cheese board, another thing organized with precision. Crackers in one section, cheese in another, grapes arranged in a small cluster. "Tell me about Peru," she said. "What's the site?" I told her about the pre-Columbian settlement, the survey work, the team. She listened, asked questions about methodology, excavation techniques, preservation challenges. It felt easy, natural, like we'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. "And after Peru?" she asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe another project. Maybe teaching. Maybe something entirely different. Maybe here?" I looked at her. She was watching me carefully, wine glass cradled in both hands. Waiting. "Maybe here," I agreed. We ate dinner at her small kitchen table, roasted chicken and vegetables. Simple, but perfect. Diana had set the table with actual plates and silverware, cloth napkins folded beside each plate. She poured water into 2 matching glasses, placed them exactly parallel to each other. After dinner, we cleared the dishes together. I washed, she dried, and we worked in comfortable silence. When we finished, she made tea, the same methodical process. 2 cups, tea bags removed at exactly the same time, placed on matching saucers. We took the tea back to the couch. Diana curled into the corner, tucking her feet beneath her. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why archaeology? What made you choose it?" I thought about it. Because I like finding things that were lost, putting pieces together, making sense of chaos. I paused. And because it's work where being alone doesn't mean you're lonely. You're always surrounded by history. She nodded slowly. "That makes sense." She sipped her tea. "I chose gallery work for the opposite reason. I wanted to be around people, around beauty, around things that made people feel something. But lately," she trailed off. "Lately it doesn't feel safe," I finished. "Yeah." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Diana set down her tea and shifted closer on the couch. Not touching, but near enough that I could feel the warmth of her presence. "Killian," she said quietly, "after the hearing, assuming we win, assuming he stays away, what happens to us?" I looked at her. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I know I don't want you to disappear, even if you leave for Peru, even if we're on different continents. I want something, some way to stay connected." I set down my own tea. "Then we figure it out. We set dates, we make plans. We stay in contact. And when I come back, we see where we are." "And if it doesn't work?" she asked. "Then at least we tried." She smiled faintly. "That's very practical. I'm a very practical person." She laughed, then sobered. "I'm scared," she said. "Not just of Brandon. I'm scared of this, of trusting someone this fast, of letting you matter." "I know," I said. "But you've already done the hard part. You asked for help. You let me in. Everything else is just next steps." Diana nodded. Then she reached for my hand, not a quick gesture, but something deliberate. I laced my fingers through hers, and we sat there while the tea cooled and the music played and the city hummed outside her windows. When I left that night, it was past midnight. Diana walked me to the door, and we stood in the hallway just like we had that first morning at my apartment. "Same time next week?" she asked. "I'd like that," and she stepped closer, rose on her toes, and pressed her lips to mine. Soft, brief, careful. A question, not a demand. I kissed her back, equally careful, and when we pulled apart, she was smiling. "Good night, Kalian." "Good night, Diana." I walked home through the quiet streets, hands in my pockets, thinking about timelines and evidence, and the way Diana organized everything in her life with such precision. Everything except this, except us, which was messy and uncertain, and somehow felt exactly right. The hearing arrived on a cold, gray April morning. Diana wore a navy suit and carried the evidence folder we'd built together. I sat in the gallery behind her, watching as she took the stand, and calmly, methodically, walked the judge through 8 weeks of documented harassment. Brandon Cole sat across the courtroom with his lawyer. He looked ordinary, unremarkable. That was the worst part, how normal he seemed, how easy it would have been to dismiss Diana's fear if not for the evidence spread across the judge's bench. The judge reviewed the timeline, the texts, the incident reports. She asked Diana direct questions, and Diana answered without hesitation. Yes, she'd told him to stop. Yes, she'd documented everything. Yes, she feared for her safety. Then the judge asked me to testify. I stood, walked to the stand, and swore to tell the truth. The judge asked me about the night at the bar, about the text message sent while Diana was hiding, about the evidence organization system we'd built. "Mr. Ortiz," the judge said, "you have a background in archaeology, not law enforcement. Why did you get involved in this case?" I looked at Diana, then back at the judge. "Because I know how to recognize patterns and document evidence. And because when someone asks for help, you don't walk away just because it's not your job." The judge nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Ortiz." I sat back down. Diana's hands were folded in her lap, still and calm. The judge deliberated for exactly 3 minutes. Then she signed the order. "Mr. Cole, you are hereby prohibited from contacting, approaching, or attempting to communicate with Ms. Hernandez in any form for a period of 1 year, renewable upon review. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest and criminal charges. Do you understand?" Cole's lawyer whispered something. Cole nodded stiffly. "Yes, Your Honor." The gavel fell. The order was entered. It was over. Diana's shoulders dropped. Detective Santos, sitting in the row behind us, gave a small nod of approval. We stood and walked out of the courtroom together. Outside, on the courthouse steps, Diana stopped. She pulled out her phone, opened the incident log folder, and archived it. Then she looked at me. "We did it," she said. "You did it," I corrected. "I just helped organize the evidence." She shook her head. "No, we did it. Together." Detective Santos caught up with us at the bottom of the steps. "Ms. Hernandez," she said, "I'll file the order with dispatch today. If Cole violates it, call 911 immediately. Don't hesitate." "I won't," Diana promised. Santos nodded, then looked at me. "Good work, Mr. Ortiz. That evidence packet made my job significantly easier. If you ever want to consult on victim advocacy cases, give me a call." She handed me a business card and walked away. Diana watched her go, then looked down at the protective order in her hand. "I can't believe it's actually done," she said. "It's not done, I said. "You'll need to stay vigilant, check locks, vary routines, keep documenting if anything happens. But the worst part, the uncertainty, the fear that no one believed you, that part's over." She nodded. Then she took my hand, laced our fingers together. "Thank you," she said simply. We walked to her car, parked a block away. When we reached it, she unlocked the door but didn't get in. Instead, she turned to face me fully. "Killian," she said, "I called your site supervisor yesterday." I stared at her. "You what?" "I looked up the Peru project online, found the contact information, and called to ask about the timeline." She pulled a folded paper from her purse, handed it to me. "They said the project's been delayed. Permit issues, budget shortfalls. New start date is October at the earliest." I unfolded the paper. Official project postponement notice, dated 3 days ago. I'd been so focused on Diana's case that I hadn't checked my email. "Why did you—" I started. "Because I needed to know," she said. "I needed to know if you were staying because you wanted to, or because you felt obligated." She looked at me directly. "So which is it?" I folded the paper carefully, slipped it into my pocket. "Both," I admitted. "I wanted to see this through. And now that I have, I want to see what happens next. With you." She smiled, slow and genuine. "Okay, good, because I want that too." She stepped closer, rose on her toes, and kissed me. Not careful this time. Deliberate, a promise, not a question. I kissed her back, my hands settling on her waist. And for a moment, the courthouse and the street and the whole world narrowed down to just this. Her lips on mine, her hands on my shoulders, the certainty that I was exactly where I wanted to be. When we pulled apart, she was still smiling. "So," she said, "what do we do now?" "Now?" I said. "Now we go get lunch. And then tonight you're coming to my apartment so I can show you the Peru project files. Because if I'm staying in the city for the next 6 months, I need a new project. And I'm thinking maybe I consult for Detective Santos, turn victim advocacy into a systematic documentation service." Diana laughed. "You want to organize evidence packets for a living?" "I want to do work that matters," I said. "And apparently I'm good at it." "You are," she agreed. "You really are." We got lunch at the same diner where we'd had breakfast after the first police report. This time, Diana ate her toast instead of tearing it into pieces. This time, when she poured her coffee, her hands didn't shake. Afterward, we walked through the park near her gallery. The spring air was warmer now, trees budding with new leaves. Diana slipped her hand into mine, and we walked in comfortable silence. "You know," she said eventually, 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be here, getting a restraining order against a stalker, falling for an archaeologist I met in a bathroom, I would have thought they were insane. "6 months ago," I said, "I was in Mongolia eating questionable meat and documenting burial sites. This is definitely an upgrade." She laughed. "Is it?" "Yeah," I said. "It really is." We stopped at a bench overlooking a small pond. Diana sat down, pulled out her phone, and deleted the incident log folder. Then she created a new folder, labeled it Good Things, and took a photo of the two of us with the courthouse in the background. "First entry," she said, showing me the screen. I looked at the photo. Diana smiling, me looking slightly confused, but happy, the courthouse steps behind us. "That's a good start." "Yeah," she agreed. "It is." 3 months later, I still hadn't left for Peru. The project was still delayed, now pushed to January. I wasn't complaining. It gave me time to build something I hadn't expected, a life that felt solid, rooted, real. Diana and I fell into an easy rhythm. Dinners twice a week at her place or mine. Weekend mornings exploring the city. Slow, steady, deliberate. We didn't rush. We didn't make promises we couldn't keep. We just showed up for each other, consistently. I started consulting for Detective Santos, helping organize evidence packets for other stalking cases. It turned out archaeologists made excellent victim advocates. We were already trained to turn chaos into coherent narratives, to document everything, to build cases that authorities couldn't ignore. Diana reopened her gallery with new security measures: cameras, panic buttons, staff training. She hired an assistant so she was never alone during business hours. She took back her space. One Saturday morning, we were sitting on her couch with coffee. Hers poured exactly the same way every time. Mine, however, she felt like making it, when she set down her cup and turned to me. "January," she said. "What about it?" "That's when you leave for Peru, 4 months from now." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, assuming the project goes through this time." "Do you want it to go through?" she asked. Honest answer? I didn't know anymore. 4 months ago, Peru had been everything. The next dig, the next discovery, the next escape from permanence. But standing here, sitting here, with Diana, with a job that mattered, with a city that was starting to feel like home, I wasn't sure I wanted to escape anymore. "I want to finish what I started," I said carefully. "The survey's important work, but I also don't want to lose this, us." Diana picked up her coffee again, held it in both hands. "What if you didn't have to choose?" "What do you mean?" She pulled out her phone, opened a saved web page, handed it to me. An article about remote gallery consulting, virtual curation, digital art markets. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she said. "What if I could do my work from anywhere? What if I came with you?" I stared at the screen, then at her. "To Peru?" "Not permanently," she said quickly. "Just for the project. 4 months, 6 if it runs long. I could consult remotely, build a portfolio of digital curation work, and then we come back here together. Or we don't. We figure it out as we go." I set down the phone. I sat down. "Diana, that's a huge change. Your gallery, your life here, can adapt," she finished. "I spent 8 weeks living in fear, organizing every minute of my day around avoiding one person. I don't want to spend the rest of my life being afraid to take risks." She looked at me directly. "I want to go to Peru with you. I want to see you work. I want to have an adventure. And then I want to come home and build something here that we both want." I didn't have words for what I was feeling. So instead of speaking, I pulled her close and kissed her. The kind of kiss that felt like a promise, and a thank you, and a beginning all at once. When we pulled apart, she was smiling. "Is that a yes?" "That's a yes," I said. "But on one condition." "What?" "You teach me how to make coffee your way," I said. "Because if we're going to be on site together for 4 months, I need to know the exact ritual." She laughed. "Deal." She led me to the kitchen and walked me through her process. Water measured precisely, grounds weighed to the gram, brewing time set for exactly 4 minutes. I watched her hands move through the familiar motions, the same way she organized everything in her life. With care, with precision, with the certainty that if you did things right, they lasted. When the coffee was ready, we poured 2 cups and stood by the window, looking out at the city below. The same city where we'd met in a bathroom, where we'd filed police reports and built evidence packets and fought for her safety. The same city we'd be coming back to when Peru was done. "You know," Diana said quietly, "when I grabbed your wrist that night, I didn't know I was grabbing onto my future." "Neither did I admitted. "I just knew I couldn't walk away." She leaned her head against my shoulder. "I'm glad you didn't." "Me too." We stood there in silence, drinking our perfectly measured coffee, watching the morning light spread across the buildings and streets below. And I realized something. I'd spent years excavating the past, looking for fragments of civilizations that used to exist. But here, with Diana, I wasn't looking backward anymore. I was looking forward at something we were building together, something that wasn't fragile or buried or lost to time, something real, something that would last. Real love isn't about dramatic rescues or perfect timing. It's about consistent action. When someone's in crisis, bring them evidence organization, not empty promises. That's what creates safety. That's what builds trust. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.